Hello, and welcome back to Fluent English Journey. My name is Ava, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a lesson. Your support truly helps this channel grow. All right, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. When I opened my eyes that morning, the first thing I noticed was the soft light entering through the curtains, a kind of warm and gentle light that made me feel calm, awake, and ready for a new day. And as I stretched my arms and slowly sat up on the edge of my bed, I said to myself in a quiet voice, "All right, today is going to be a good day," not because something special was planned, but because I wanted to start my morning with a positive thought. A simple phrase that helps me feel focused and ready. You know, one of those small daily conversations you have with yourself when no one else is around. And as I stood up and walked toward the kitchen, I could already feel the small routines of the morning calling me, the things we all say every day without even thinking about them, like, "Where are my keys?" Or, "Did I forget something?" Or, "What should I eat for breakfast?" These simple questions are a part of life, and when you say them in English, even small sentences can help you practice fluency. So when I entered the kitchen, I looked at the countertop and said out loud, "Let me see what I have," because I wasn't sure if I had enough milk for coffee or enough bread for toast, and talking to myself in English felt natural and easy, like warming up before a long day full of conversations. I opened the fridge, looked at the almost empty shelf, and laughed quietly, saying, "Okay, I really need to do some shopping today," because I knew breakfast would be very simple, maybe just a cup of coffee and something small. As the water heated for my coffee, I leaned against the counter and said to myself, "How am I feeling today? Am I ready? What do I need to do?" And I started planning my day out loud, the same way many English learners can practice their speaking at home, just by describing their thoughts in clear, natural sentences. While the coffee machine made its soft morning sound, I continued talking to myself because it helped me think more clearly, and I said, "First, I need to send that email. Then I have to call David. And I can't forget the meeting at 11, and after saying those sentences, I paused and nodded to myself like I was confirming the plan. When my coffee was finally ready, I lifted the warm cup in my hands and whispered, "Perfect, that's exactly what I needed," before taking the first sip that made me feel awake and focused. And as I drank, I heard a message notification from my phone, and I said softly, "Who could that be this early?" When I picked it up, I saw a message from my friend Mia. She wrote, "Good morning. Are you busy? Can I ask you something?" And I smiled because she always starts her day with friendly questions like that. So I replied using a calm voice while I typed, saying the words out loud as I wrote them, "Good morning. I'm not too busy. What's up?" Speaking the sentences as I typed them helped me practice my tone, rhythm, and flow, something many English learners forget to do. A moment later, she replied with another message that said, "I need your opinion on something. Can we talk for a minute?" And I said to myself, "Sure, why not?" It's still early. So I pressed the call button and waited until she picked up. "Hey, good morning," she said in a cheerful voice, and I answered, "Good morning, Mia. What's going on?" She laughed for a moment before she said, "Well, I'm trying to decide whether I should apply for a new job. I need someone to tell me if I'm crazy or if it's a good idea." I took a slow sip of coffee and said, "Okay, tell me more." And for several minutes, she explained her situation, talked about her fears, her hopes, her plans, and all the small daily doubts people have when they want to make a change in their life. And as she talked, I practiced simple but advanced daily conversation phrases, things like, "I see what you mean. That makes sense. I understand why you feel that way. If I were you, in my opinion, from what I can tell, and do you want my honest advice?" These are the kinds of phrases that make English sound natural in real conversations. After she explained everything, she asked me, "So what do you think?" Should I do it? And I said slowly, if it feels right for you, and if you believe it's a good step, then yes, I think you should try. She took a deep breath and said, thanks. I really needed to hear that. You always know how to say things in a calm way. I joked, well, maybe it's just the coffee, and we both laughed. Then she said, okay, I'll talk to you later. Good luck with your day, and I answered, you too, before hanging up. After the call ended, I stood there for a moment with my coffee in my hand, thinking about how conversations in the morning can set the tone for the rest of the day. They can make you feel connected, awake, and ready for anything, and even small sentences like, how are you, or what do you think, or can I ask you a question, can help you practice natural English. I finished my coffee, put the cup in the sink, and said, all right, time to get ready. As I walked toward the bathroom, I passed by the hallway mirror and stopped. Sometimes in the morning, you look at yourself and talk out loud, even if it feels a little silly. I looked at my tired face and said softly, you look like you need more sleep, and then with a laugh I added, but you'll survive. These small jokes you make with yourself are real English practice too. When I reached the bathroom, I turned on the light and said, okay, let's wake up properly. And as I washed my face with cold water, I whispered, that's better, which is something people naturally say when something feels refreshing. Then as I brushed my teeth, I practiced simple daily sentences in my head, things like, what do I need to do next? Did I forget anything? I should check the time, I hope I'm not running late. All the small natural thoughts you can speak out loud to improve your fluency. When I was done getting ready, I went back to my room to choose clothes for the day, and as I looked through my closet, I said, what should I wear today? I tried on a shirt and stood in front of the mirror, saying, this looks okay. Then I changed into something else and said, actually, this is better. These tiny conversations with yourself are real English. They help you develop the feeling for the language. After dressing, I grabbed my bag and checked everything inside it, saying out loud, wallet? Yes. Keys? Yes. Phone? Yes. Notebook? Yes. Earphones? Yes. Okay, all set. Saying these sentences makes daily routines feel clear and organized, and in English, they sound natural and simple, perfect for morning practice. When I stepped outside, the cool air touched my face and I said to myself, it's a nice morning today, as I locked the door behind me. As I walked down the street, I could hear the quiet sounds of the neighborhood birds, a distant car, someone sweeping outside their house, and it made me feel peaceful. I took a deep breath and said, let's start the day. A few minutes later, I arrived at the small corner cafe where I often go in the morning. The door made a gentle bell sound as I entered, and the barista, a friendly man named Daniel, looked at me and said, good morning. The usual. And I replied with a smile, yes, please, because every morning he already knows what I like. He asked, how's your day so far? And I answered, not bad. Just getting started. He nodded and said, I hear you. Mornings can be slow sometimes. I laughed and said, that's true. Then he handed me my coffee and said, here you go, and I replied, thank you, before taking a sip. These small interactions with people you see often are perfect for practicing natural English because they use everyday language like, how's it going? Same as always, thanks a lot, and have a great day. I sat near the window and observed people passing by on the street, practicing listening to the rhythm of English conversations around me, even if I couldn't hear every word. A mother walked by with her child, saying, hold my hand, please, and a group of friends laughed as one of them said, come on, hurry up, we're going to be late. These everyday sentences helped me feel surrounded by natural English. As I finished my drink, Daniel came over and said, do you need anything else? And I responded, no, I'm good. Thanks. Then he asked, big day today? And I said, maybe. I have a few things to take care of. And he replied, well, good luck with everything. And I said, thanks, I appreciate it. After leaving the cafe, I walked toward the bus stop, checking the time on my watch and saying out loud, I hope I didn't miss it, because the bus usually arrives around the same time every morning. When I reached the stop, there were already a few people waiting, and I nodded politely and said, morning, to an older man who was reading a newspaper. He looked up and smiled, saying, good morning, in a calm voice. While waiting, I practiced simple English thoughts like, I hope the bus isn't too crowded. I need to remember to send that message. I should check the schedule, and I wonder how long it will take today. When the bus finally arrived, I stepped inside and said to the driver, good morning, and he replied, morning, with a friendly nod. I tapped my card and found a seat near the middle. As the bus began moving, I sat quietly, observing the passengers around me, listening to the soft sound of conversations. A woman behind me was saying, yeah, I'll be there in about 10 minutes, and a man near the window was on the phone whispering, I'll call you back later. Simple sentences, real English, daily life. When the bus reached the next stop, a woman got on, carrying several heavy bags. She looked tired, so I asked, do you need help with that? And she smiled gratefully, saying, oh, thank you, that's kind of you, and I helped her place the bags on the floor so she could sit comfortably. No problem at all, I said, and she replied, people don't usually offer help. That was very nice. I smiled and said, it's nothing, really, and then we both sat quietly as the bus continued moving. It reminded me how small gestures and small conversations can make a day feel better. As we approached my stop, I pressed the button and said quietly, this is me, like people often say when they are getting off the bus. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and said to the driver, thanks, and he replied, have a good one, which is a very common friendly phrase. I stepped off the bus, took a breath, and said to myself, okay, here we go, because the next part of my day was about to begin, and I knew it would bring more conversations, more moments to practice, more chances to speak clearly and naturally. That is how my morning started, full of simple English, daily sentences, natural phrases, and small interactions that help build real fluency without stress, without pressure, just calm, friendly communication with yourself and with the world. When I stepped off the bus and began walking toward the office building where I worked, I could already feel the rhythm of the day changing, like the morning warmth was slowly shifting into the busy, active energy of midday, and as I walked through the quiet street, I said to myself, all right, time to focus, because I knew that once I entered the office, I would spend most of my time talking to people, answering questions, sharing ideas, solving problems, and using English in many small but important conversations. The building door opened with a soft sound, and I greeted the receptionist with a smile, saying, good morning, and she replied, good morning. How are you today? I answered naturally, pretty good. A bit tired, but I'm getting there, which made her laugh softly before she said, aren't we all? Everyday phrases like that make conversations feel real and friendly, simple but warm. I walked toward the elevator, pressed the button, and whispered to myself, I hope it's not too crowded, because during busy hours, the elevator usually fills up quickly. When the doors opened, only one person was inside, a coworker named Ben, who looked up from his phone and said, morning, and I responded, morning. How's everything? He shrugged and said, same as always. Just trying to wake up. I laughed and said, yeah, me too, and we stood there in a comfortable silence until the elevator reached our floor. As I entered the office, I took a deep breath and said quietly, okay, let's start, and I placed my bag near my desk. My computer screen turned on slowly, and while waiting, I practiced a few natural English sentences in my mind, Things like, what's the plan for today? What do I need to finish first? Let me check my messages, because starting the day with clear thoughts helps everything feel easier. A moment later, my teammate Sarah walked by and said, "Hey, good morning. Did you get my email last night?" I looked up and said, "Not yet. I just sat down." "What was it about?" She replied, "Just a quick update about the client meeting. When you have a minute, take a look." I nodded and said, "Sure, I'll check it right away. Thanks for letting me know." She smiled and continued walking. These short interactions happen all day long in workplaces. Simple exchanges like, "Got it, I'll check. Thanks for the update. Let me know," and they help English learners sound more natural in professional settings without needing complicated vocabulary. As I began checking emails, I said softly, "Let's see," because there were already several unread messages waiting for me. I opened the first one and read it out loud in a quiet voice. "Hi, can you send me the final report by noon?" And I whispered to myself, "Okay, I can do that," before replying with a simple message, "Sure, I'll send it to you soon." Then I moved to the next email, which said, "Can we reschedule our call?" And I murmured, "Of course we can," as I typed back, "Yes, no problem. What time works for you?" Reading emails out loud is a helpful way for English learners to practice tone, rhythm, and clarity. After answering a few messages, I heard footsteps approaching, and when I looked up, it was my coworker David, the same person I was planning to call earlier. He said, "Hey, good timing. I was about to message you." I smiled and said, "Perfect. I was going to call you anyway." He leaned on my desk and said, "So, are you ready for the client meeting later?" I took a deep breath and said, "I think so. I reviewed everything yesterday." He nodded and said, "Good. They might ask a few difficult questions, but you'll be fine." I laughed and said, "I hope so." He touched my shoulder lightly and said, "Relax. You always handle it well." After he left, I checked the time and realized it was almost 11, which meant I had less than an hour to prepare. I whispered to myself, "Okay, stay calm," and opened the presentation file on my screen. While reviewing it, I practiced natural English phrases I might use in the meeting. Things like, "Let me explain. Here's what we found from our analysis. The main point is, let me answer that," and "Good question," because preparing sentences in advance makes real conversations easier. As I spoke the phrases quietly, I heard a familiar voice beside me say, "Talking to yourself again?" I turned and saw my coworker Julia smiling at me. I laughed and said, "Yeah, it helps me practice." She said, "Actually, that's smart. I should try it too." Then she glanced at my screen and said, "Is that the presentation?" I nodded. She leaned closer and said, "Looks good. Don't worry, you'll do great." I smiled and said, "Thanks, I appreciate it." At 11 sharp, David called, "All right, everybody, meeting room," and I grabbed my notebook and said softly, "Let's do this," before walking to the room. Inside, the clients were already sitting, smiling politely. I shook their hands and said, "Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you." One of them replied, "Good morning. Thanks for having us." We took our seats, and after a moment of silence, David nodded at me, signaling that it was my turn to speak. I took a deep breath and began with a simple sentence, "Okay, let's get started," and as I explained the points, I used clear and natural English. "This part is important. Here's the main idea. Let me show you an example. Please feel free to ask questions." "I'll answer that in a moment. That's a great point. What we're trying to say is, and let me make this simple." These everyday professional phrases helped the presentation feel natural and smooth, and even though I felt nervous at first, the more I spoke, the more confident I became. When I finished the main explanation, one of the clients said, "Thank you. That was very clear," and I replied, "I'm glad to hear that, because positive feedback always feels good." After the meeting ended, I walked out with David, and he said, "Nice job. You were calm and clear." I smiled and said, "Thanks." I was a bit nervous at first. He laughed and said I could tell, but it didn't show. As I sat back at my desk, I felt proud but also hungry, and I whispered, "Time for lunch," before standing up. I grabbed my wallet and headed outside with two coworkers, Sarah and Julia. We walked toward a small restaurant nearby, and while walking, we practiced small talk, the kind of light, friendly conversation people have every day. Sarah asked, "So, what do you guys want to eat?" And I said, "I'm thinking something simple. Maybe soup or a sandwich." Julia said, "I want pasta." "I'm starving." We laughed, and as we entered the restaurant, a waiter greeted us with a warm hello. "Table for 3?" And I replied, "Yes, please." He guided us to a table near the window and handed us the menus. "Take your time," he said, before walking away. We opened the menus, and Sarah asked, "What are you getting?" I said, "I think I'll go with the chicken sandwich. It looks good." Julia pointed at her menu and said, "This pasta looks amazing. I'll get that." When the waiter returned, he smiled and said, "Are you ready to order?" I replied, "Yes, I think so," and then I practiced clear ordering phrases in natural spoken English. "I'll have the chicken sandwich, please." Sarah said, "I'll take the tomato soup," and Julia said, "I'll get the pasta, please." The waiter nodded and said, "Great choices. Anything to drink?" And I answered, "Just water for me." Julia said, "Same here," and Sarah ordered a lemonade. The waiter repeated everything back to confirm, then walked away. These simple restaurant conversations, "Are you ready?" "I'll have," "Can I get?" "That's all, thank you," are perfect for real English fluency. As we waited for our food, we talked about life, work, and small daily things. Sarah said, "I need a vacation," and I laughed, saying, "Don't we all?" Julia asked me, "How's your week going so far?" and I answered, "Pretty good. Busy, but manageable." Then I asked her, "What about you?" She said, "Same. But today feels better." We talked about movies, weekend plans, and funny stories from work. These small, natural conversations help learners practice English that sounds human and real. When the food arrived, the waiter said, "Here you go. Enjoy," and we replied, "Thank you," before starting to eat. The sandwich was warm and fresh, and I said, "This is good," which made Julia ask, "Really?" "I'll try it next time." As we ate, we continued talking with simple questions like, "Did you hear about?" "Have you tried?" "Do you want to?" "What do you think of?" These open-ended phrases help keep conversations flowing. After finishing lunch, I said to the waiter, "Could we get the bill, please?" And he nodded, replying, "Of course." When the bill came, we split it evenly, and I said, "Let me get my wallet," before placing my share of the money on the table. As we walked back to the office, I stretched my arms and said, "I needed that break," and Sarah agreed, saying, "Me too." When we returned, I checked my messages again and whispered, "Okay, back to work," because the afternoon usually brought more tasks. Throughout the next hour, I had several short conversations with coworkers, using simple daily English like, "Do you have a minute? Can you help me with this?" "I'll check and get back to you." "Sounds good, no problem. Take your time and let me know when you're done." These small phrases are powerful tools for speaking naturally in real life. Around 3 in the afternoon, I felt a little tired, so I stood up and went to the break room to get some water. Inside, Ben was making coffee. He looked at me and said, "You look tired," and I laughed, saying, "I feel tired." He asked, "Long day?" And I said, "Yeah, a lot going on," and he replied, "Same here." Then he asked, "Do you want some coffee?" And I said, "No, thanks. I'll just get water." While filling my bottle, I said, "I just need a little energy to survive the rest of the day," and he joked, "Good luck." We both laughed before returning to our desks. As the afternoon continued, I worked quietly, finishing small tasks one by one, and every now and then I whispered simple English reminders to myself, like, "Don't forget to reply to that email. Check the file again. Almost done, and just a bit more." When the clock finally reached 5, I leaned back in my chair and said, "Done," with a relieved smile. I packed my things, waved goodbye to my coworkers, and walked out of the building, feeling the contrast between the busy office and the calm of the outside world. As I walked toward the bus stop again, I thought about how many small conversations I had during the day, hundreds of tiny sentences that built fluency naturally, slowly, and calmly, not through grammar books or exercises, but through real life, through simple interactions, through friendly exchanges that make English feel easy and alive. That was my midday, a flow of natural English, simple conversations, small questions, polite replies, warm interactions, and clear phrases that help anyone become more fluent without stress, without pressure, just by living the language one moment at a time. When I stepped out of the office building and felt the afternoon sun on my face, it was warm but gentle, like the world had slowed down just a little, and as I walked toward the bus stop again, I took a deep breath and said to myself, "All right. The busy part of the day is done," even though I knew I still had things to do. It was the kind of afternoon when you feel tired, but also relaxed, like your body is slowing down, but your mind is still active. As I waited for the bus, I said out loud softly, "I hope it's not too crowded this time," and while I waited, I practiced a few simple English thoughts like, "What should I do after I get home? Should I go to the store? Do I have everything I need? Maybe I should clean the apartment later," because these small daily English sentences help me feel connected to the language in a natural way. A moment later, the bus arrived, and I stepped inside, greeted the driver with a simple hello, and found a seat near the back. As the bus moved, I listened quietly to the conversation of two people sitting behind me. One said, "Did you finish the project?" and the other replied, "Almost." "I just need a little more time," and I smiled because these small daily sentences are exactly the kind of real English people forget to practice. I leaned my head against the window, watching the city pass by, and whispered, "It's a nice day," as the bus continued to move through the familiar streets. When I got off at my stop, I decided to walk to the grocery store before going home, because I remembered the empty fridge from the morning. As I walked, I practiced natural spoken English in my mind, things like, "Let's get some vegetables, I need bread, maybe I should get fruit, what else do I need?" Because shopping gives you so many chances to use simple, real sentences. When I entered the store, a worker arranging apples smiled at me and said, "Hi there," and I replied, "Hi," before grabbing a basket. I walked to the produce section and said quietly, "Let me see," as I looked at the options. I picked up an avocado and said to myself, "This one looks good," then placed it in the basket. A woman next to me was choosing tomatoes, and she suddenly turned and asked, "Excuse me, do you know if these are fresh?" I smiled politely and said, "I'm not sure, but they look good to me," and she nodded, saying, "Thanks." I wasn't sure what to pick. I replied, "No problem," before moving to the next section. Small interactions like that are simple, but helpful for staying comfortable speaking English with strangers. As I continued shopping, I said quietly, "Milk, bread, eggs, coffee," naming each item as I placed it in the basket. Then I stopped and said, "Do I need cereal?" Maybe, before grabbing a box. In the drinks section, I reached for a bottle of water, and a man accidentally bumped into me. He said quickly, "Oh, sorry about that," and I replied, "No worries. It's okay," in a calm and friendly tone. Even small bump into moments are real English practice. After finishing my shopping, I walked to the cashier. The young woman at the counter smiled and said, "Hi. Did you find everything okay?" And I replied, "Yes, thank you," before placing my items on the conveyor belt. She scanned everything and said, "Do you need a bag?" And I said, "Yes, please," before paying. As she handed me the receipt, she said, "Have a great afternoon," and I replied, "You too," before walking out with the bag in my hand. The walk home felt peaceful, and as I walked down the quiet street, I said softly, "I should rest for a bit when I get home." When I reached my apartment building, I pushed the door open and sighed, finally, letting the familiar calm of home surround me. I placed the groceries on the kitchen counter and began putting everything away while saying small English reminders like, "This goes here," "Put this in the fridge," "I should wash the vegetables later," and "Don't forget the milk." Because speaking simple sentences during chores makes English feel natural. After everything was organized, I poured myself a glass of cold water, took a slow sip, and said, "That feels good," before sitting on the couch. I pulled out my phone to check messages and saw one from Mia again. She wrote, "How did your meeting go?" And I replied out loud as I typed, "It went well," then continued speaking while writing. They liked the presentation and hit send. A moment later she called me, and when I answered, she said, "So? Tell me everything." I laughed and said, "There's not much to tell. It went smoothly." She asked, "Were you nervous?" And I said, "At first, yes. But once I started talking, it felt fine." She replied, "I knew you'd do well," and then she said, "By the way, are you free later? I need help choosing something online." I laughed and said, "You always need help choosing something," and she said, "Exactly. That's why I called you." I said, "All right. Call me when you're ready," and she replied, "Will do," before hanging up. After the call, I leaned back and closed my eyes for a moment, letting the quiet room relax me. But then, after a minute or two, I said softly, "I should check that email," because I remembered there was something left from work. I opened my laptop and read a message from a client saying, "Can you send me the updated file?" And I said, "Sure," before responding, "Yes, I'll send it soon." Then I found the file, made a few changes, and sent it. While working, I whispered natural English thoughts, like, "Almost done. Let me check this again. Is this correct? One more thing, that should work," and okay, finished. After closing the laptop, I stood up and stretched my arms, saying, "I need some fresh air." I walked to the balcony and looked at the sky, which was bright blue with soft afternoon light. I said quietly, "It's beautiful today," feeling calm and grateful for a simple moment of peace. A few minutes later, I checked the time and said, "Maybe I should go for a short walk, because walking helps me think and relax." So I grabbed my keys, put on my shoes, and stepped outside. The neighborhood was quiet, with only a few people walking dogs or jogging. As I walked, I practiced natural English phrases in my mind, like, "I like this street," "It feels peaceful here," "Look at that tree," "The weather is nice," "I should do this more often," because speaking your thoughts out loud is one of the best ways to improve fluency. Halfway through the walk, I passed a small cafe I had never noticed before. A sign in the window said, "Try our new iced coffee," and I said to myself, "Why not?" before stepping inside. The cafe was cozy, with quiet music playing softly. A barista behind the counter smiled and said, "Hi, what can I get for you?" I looked at the menu for a moment and said, "I'll try the iced coffee, please." She asked, "Medium or large?" and I replied, "Medium, please." She nodded and said, "Anything else?" and I shook my head and said, "No, that's all." As she prepared the drink, she asked, "How's your day going?" and I answered, "Pretty good. Just taking a break." She smiled and said, "That's nice. It's a perfect day for a walk." I replied, "Yeah, it really is," before taking the drink she handed me. "Enjoy," she said, and I answered, "Thank you," before finding a seat near the window. As I sat there sipping my iced coffee, I listened to the quiet chatter around the room. A couple nearby was talking softly. One said, "Do you want to try mine?" And the other replied, "Sure, just a little," and they both laughed. Two students at another table were discussing homework. One said, "I don't understand this part," and the other answered, "Let me explain," then started reading something from a laptop. These natural, everyday sentences made the cafe feel alive with easy, flowing English. I smiled and whispered to myself, "This is good listening practice." After finishing my drink, I stood up and said softly, "Time to go," before heading back outside. The walk home felt refreshing, and when I reached the building, I said quietly, "Home sweet home," like people often say when they return. Inside my apartment, I placed my keys on the table and checked my phone again. There was a new message from Mia saying, "Ready now? Call me." So I hit the call button, and when she answered, she said, "Okay, listen. I need to choose a gift for someone, and I don't know which one looks better." I laughed and said, "Show me," and she shared her screen with two pictures. I said, "The first one looks nicer," and she replied, "Really?" I thought the second one. I said, "No, the first one has a better color," and she said, "All right, I trust you," before adding, "Thanks again." I said, "Anytime," and we talked a bit longer about nothing serious, just small talk like, "How's your afternoon? What are you doing later? Did you eat anything? Are you tired? What's the plan for tomorrow?" These simple questions make conversations feel natural and friendly. After we hung up, I walked to the kitchen and said, "Maybe I should cook something," before opening the fridge. I looked at the ingredients and whispered, "What can I make?" I decided on something simple like pasta. As I cooked, I practiced small English phrases. Boil the water, cut the vegetables, stir this, wait a minute, almost done, this smells good, that should be enough, time to eat. Cooking is one of the best times to speak English out loud because it feels natural and calm. When the food was ready, I sat down and took a bite, saying softly, "It's good," before relaxing into the peaceful afternoon silence. During lunch, I watched a short English video on my phone, trying to listen carefully to every word. I repeated a few sentences quietly. "That makes sense. I didn't know that. Interesting, let me think," because repeating sentences helps build fluency. After eating, I washed the dishes while saying small thoughts like, "Don't break the glass, wash this first, rinse that, all done," because even washing dishes can be English practice if you make it so. By the time I finished everything, the afternoon was slowly turning into early evening, and I said to myself, "The day is going by fast," as I sat on the couch, feeling calm, relaxed, and more aware of my English than ever. The afternoon had been full of small conversations with coworkers, strangers, friends, baristas, and even with myself. Conversations that were simple, warm, natural, and perfect for building confidence. No grammar rules, no textbooks, just real-life English spoken in real moments, clear, friendly, calm, and alive. As the sun slowly dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky with warm orange and pink colors, I felt a sense of calm wash over me, and I said softly to myself, "Evening is here," realizing that the busy part of the day had passed and it was time to slow down, to relax, and to spend some moments in gentle conversation, both with myself and with others. I walked toward the living room and glanced out of the window, watching the neighborhood quiet down while children finished playing, neighbors returned home, and a soft breeze made the leaves move gently. I whispered, "It's peaceful now," and this simple observation made me feel grounded and ready for the next part of the day, which always involved natural English conversations, even if they were small and casual. I took a deep breath and said, "Maybe I'll call Mia now," because our evening calls are a small habit that helps me practice fluent, real English in a friendly, relaxed way. I dialed her number, and when she answered, she said, "Hey, how's it going?" I smiled and said, "Hey, pretty good. Just enjoying the evening." "You?" She replied, "Same here. I just got back from a walk," and I said, "Nice. Was it relaxing?" She laughed softly and said, "Yes, very. The weather was perfect." We spoke like that for a few minutes, using simple daily phrases like, "What did you see? Did you enjoy it?" "I love that part." "Oh, really? That's interesting. Tell me more." Because casual conversations like this build real listening and speaking fluency in a calm, friendly environment. After a few minutes, she asked, "So, are you cooking dinner tonight?" And I replied, "Yeah, something simple. Pasta," and she said, "Nice. Do you want me to help you pick something?" I laughed and said, "Thanks, but I think I'll manage," and then I continued, "What about you? Are you making anything?" She said, "Just some sandwiches. Easy evening," and I said, "Sounds perfect." During these calls, we also naturally practice polite exchanges, questions, suggestions, and encouragement. "Do you want me to? Can I help you?" "That's a good idea. Sounds good. I think you'll like it. No worries. Thanks. I appreciate it." All these small phrases make English sound easy, natural, and friendly. After 10 minutes, we ended the call with soft laughter and goodbyes. "Talk later." "Bye." "See you." "Have a good evening." "You too." These short farewells are another part of daily conversational fluency. After hanging up, I walked to the kitchen to prepare dinner, and as I washed the vegetables, I said out loud, "Let's see, onions, tomatoes, garlic, pasta," naming everything in a calm, natural voice. Then I chopped slowly, saying, "Careful, careful," as I guided the knife. Boiling water on the stove, I whispered, "Almost ready," and added the pasta when it reached the right temperature. Stirring it gently, I said, "Don't overcook," and after a few minutes, I added the sauce and vegetables while saying, "Perfect timing." Cooking while speaking in English makes even simple daily tasks a moment to improve fluency, because you describe every action and speak as you think, practicing words and phrases that are natural in everyday life. When dinner was ready, I plated the food and said softly, "Time to eat," before sitting at the table, noticing the smell and colors of the ingredients. I took the first bite and said, this is good," practicing natural, relaxed reactions that people use all the time in conversation. As I ate, I reflected quietly on the day, saying, "I spoke a lot today. I practiced many small conversations. I listened carefully, and I feel more confident," because reflection is another key way to develop English fluency and awareness. After dinner, I washed the dishes while talking to myself, saying, "Don't forget to rinse this. Be careful with that glass. Almost done. Perfect." And when everything was clean, I dried my hands and whispered, "All set." Then I sat back on the couch with a cup of tea and picked up my phone, thinking, maybe I'll watch a short English video before relaxing fully. I started a video and listened carefully, repeating some sentences softly as I spoke them aloud. "I didn't know that. That's very interesting. I understand now. Can you explain more?" "Oh, I see. That makes sense," because repeating spoken English aloud improves pronunciation, rhythm, and comprehension. After the video, I paused and said softly, "Okay, time for some reflection," because evening is the best time to think about the conversations, practice sentences, and review the small achievements of the day. I grabbed a notebook and wrote a few sentences quietly while speaking them aloud. Today I talked to coworkers, friends, and strangers. I practiced daily English phrases. I listened carefully to conversations around me. I cooked and spoke to myself. I feel more confident in English. I will continue tomorrow, and small conversations make a big difference. Writing while speaking is an excellent technique for building fluency because it combines reading, writing, speaking, and thinking in English all at once. After writing, I read the sentences aloud again, slowly and clearly, noticing the flow of words, practicing stress, intonation, and natural rhythm. Today I talked to coworkers, friends, and strangers. I practiced daily English phrases. I listened carefully to conversations around me. I cooked and spoke to myself. I feel more confident in English. I will continue tomorrow. Small conversations make a big difference. This repetition reinforces natural fluency and allows the language to settle in your mind. Later, I decided to call my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, because we sometimes share short, friendly chats in the evening. I dialed her number, and when she answered, she said, "Hello there. How's your evening?" I replied, "Good evening. I'm relaxing now. How about you?" She laughed softly and said, "Same here. Just finished my tea." I asked politely, "Do you have a few minutes to chat?" And she said, "Of course." We talked casually about her garden, her new cat, the weather, and small neighborhood events, using natural phrases. "That sounds lovely, really? How is it?" "I hope it's doing well. Have you seen?" "It's been a nice day. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for telling me." Small everyday conversations like this build listening and speaking fluency without even thinking about grammar rules, because you focus on meaning, tone, and natural expressions. After 10 minutes, she said, "I should get back to my book." "It was nice talking to you," and I said, "Same here. Have a good evening," then hung up with a smile, feeling connected and calm. With the evening quiet around me, I decided to prepare for tomorrow, saying quietly, "Let me check my schedule," and as I opened my planner, I listed the tasks, meetings, and small errands, speaking each sentence aloud. "Tomorrow I will call Mia. I have a meeting at 11, check emails before lunch, go shopping if needed, cook dinner, practice English, and relax in the evening." Speaking plans aloud makes English feel real and natural, helping learners internalize both vocabulary and sentence patterns. After finishing, I closed the planner and whispered, "All set for tomorrow," then went to the balcony for a few quiet minutes of fresh air, practicing simple English thoughts. "The sky is beautiful. The air feels nice. I can hear birds. The city is calm. It's a perfect evening. I'm ready to rest." These sentences, simple but clear, help learners practice thinking in English naturally. Before bed, I prepared a small cup of herbal tea and said, "Time to wind down," as I sipped slowly, listening to the soft sounds outside. Occasionally, I repeated small sentences from earlier in the day. "Good morning. How are you?" "I like this. That's nice. Can I help you?" "Thank you. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. I understand. That makes sense. I hope so." Repeating these phrases reinforces memory and builds natural rhythm and intonation. As the room grew darker, I turned off most lights, leaving just a soft lamp on, and whispered, "The day is almost over," reflecting on how many simple conversations had happened with coworkers, friends, neighbors, strangers, baristas, and even with myself. I felt grateful for each opportunity to speak English in a calm, natural, everyday context. The flow of the day, from morning routines, midday work, afternoon errands, to evening reflections, was full of small interactions and conversations that, when practiced slowly and mindfully, make a huge difference in fluency and confidence. Finally, as I got ready for bed, I said softly, "Time to sleep," and as I lay down, I reviewed the day in my mind, repeating small sentences aloud quietly. I spoke clearly, I listened carefully, I practiced daily English, I helped a neighbor. I called a friend, I cooked and described what I did. I feel more confident. I will continue tomorrow. These calm, reflective sentences created a sense of closure and achievement, the kind of evening meditation in English that helps learners consolidate everything learned naturally. As I closed my eyes and whispered, "Good night," I felt ready to sleep. knowing that tomorrow would bring more small conversations, more listening practice, more opportunities to use English naturally, and another day to become fluent without stress, simply through living the language one moment at a time. After turning off the lamp and lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling for a few moments, feeling the quiet of the apartment around me, and I whispered softly, "It's so calm tonight, because nighttime has a different energy than daytime. It is slower, gentler, and perfect for thinking clearly and practicing English in a relaxed way." I rolled slightly on my side, tucked the blanket closer, and said quietly to myself, "Let me review the day," as I thought back to every small conversation I had, from morning greetings with the barista to office meetings, phone calls with Mia, chats with neighbors, and even the simple sentences I spoke to myself while cooking or walking outside. I whispered each event slowly, saying, "This morning I greeted Daniel at the cafe. I said, 'Good morning.' The usual please." I smiled and practiced small talk. Then I called Mia and said, "Good morning. I'm not too busy. What's up?" I listened carefully to her voice. I gave my advice. I said, "If it feels right, go for it." Later, I went to work. I greeted coworkers. I said, "Good morning. How are you today?" I spoke in meetings. Let me explain. The main point is, please ask questions. Then lunch. I ordered food. I'll have the chicken sandwich, please. Afternoon walks. The weather is nice. This street is peaceful. Evening calls. How's your evening? I'm relaxing now. Cooking. Boil the water, cut the vegetables, time to eat. Every small sentence counts. Speaking and reviewing each sentence in this calm, slow way made me realize how much English I actually used naturally in daily life, and how simple sentences repeated over time create fluency without pressure. As I reflected, I whispered thoughts about challenges, because even during a good day, there are moments that feel tricky. I said softly, I was nervous in the meeting. I almost forgot some sentences. I hesitated a little. I wondered if Mia would like my advice. I worried about small things at the grocery store. I hesitated speaking to Mrs. Thompson. I realized that these small doubts are normal and part of learning, and I said aloud, "That's okay. Mistakes are fine. I can. Try again tomorrow." Each time I speak, I improve. Saying encouragements in English, even quietly to yourself, is very helpful because it reinforces positive habits and builds confidence naturally. I repeated slowly, I am improving. I am confident. I am learning. I will continue. Every day is practice. Every conversation counts. Then I began thinking about vocabulary and phrases I used during the day. I whispered, "Good morning, good evening, thank you, you're welcome, I'm sorry, excuse me, can I help you, please, let me check, that's a good idea, I like this, I don't know, maybe, I hope, I think, I understand, that makes sense, I will try. I will continue." Small conversations make a difference. I said each word and sentence slowly, noticing the pronunciation and the rhythm. Repeating phrases in this calm moment is like reviewing flashcards, but with real-life context. I also thought about intonation. Good morning, with a smile. I'm not too busy, calmly. Please ask questions, politely. That's a good idea, warmly. Practicing tone and rhythm in your mind and aloud helps English sound natural and fluent, not forced or robotic. As my thoughts drifted, I practiced connecting ideas in English. I whispered sentences like, I woke up this morning and had coffee. I spoke to Mia. I went to work. I had a meeting. I ate lunch with coworkers. I walked outside. I cooked dinner. I called Mrs. Thompson. I practiced English with small sentences. I listened carefully. I felt calm. I am ready for tomorrow. Speaking this way, slowly, in long connected sentences, helps with storytelling, one of the most important skills for fluent English. It teaches linking ideas naturally with simple words, which is easier than focusing on complicated grammar. Each sentence flows into the next, creating a smooth rhythm and natural English storytelling skill. Then I reflected on emotions. I whispered, I felt nervous in the meeting. I felt happy talking to Mia. I felt calm walking outside. I felt proud finishing tasks. I felt grateful for quiet moments. I felt relaxed cooking dinner. I felt peaceful listening to the evening. I feel confident practicing small conversations. Recognizing and describing emotions in English is very helpful because daily conversations are not only about facts, but also feelings. Using simple phrases like I feel, I am, it makes me, that was, builds natural fluency. I repeated slowly, I feel calm. I feel happy. I feel confident. I feel relaxed. I feel ready, and noticed how naturally English words can express thoughts and feelings without needing complicated sentences. After that, I imagined tomorrow. I whispered aloud, tomorrow I will wake up, have coffee, talk to Mia, go to work, attend meetings, eat lunch, walk outside, cook dinner, call friends, practice English, reflect in the evening, and sleep calmly. Visualizing the next day in English while speaking aloud is an excellent technique for fluency. It prepares your mind to think in English and gives you confidence that you can describe your day clearly. I continued, I will greet people politely. I will answer questions. I will listen carefully. I will speak slowly. I will enjoy conversations. I will notice small phrases. I will repeat words. I will stay calm. Each sentence reinforced positive habits and fluent speaking patterns. Then, I practiced storytelling out loud in English. I whispered slowly, today was a good day. I woke up and greeted the morning. I had coffee and planned my day. I spoke to Mia. She asked advice. I went to work. I had small conversations with coworkers. I attended a meeting and explained points clearly. I ate lunch with friends. We spoke naturally. I walked outside and noticed the weather. I shopped for groceries and used English with strangers. I cooked dinner and spoke to myself. I called a neighbor and had a short chat. I practiced English while reflecting. I feel calm, confident, and ready for tomorrow. Speaking in a storytelling format in simple English helps learners organize thoughts and communicate smoothly, just like a natural narrator. This is exactly the skill needed to reach C1 fluency: clear, calm, confident, simple, and natural English. As I relaxed further, I practiced questions I might ask others tomorrow. I whispered aloud, how are you? Did you sleep well? What did you do today? Do you want some help? What are your plans? Did you enjoy it? Can you show me? What do you think? Is that okay? Can I try? These short, polite, friendly questions are used constantly in real life. Practicing them quietly before sleep reinforces natural patterns, so when I speak tomorrow, they flow automatically. I repeated them slowly, imagining different people and situations, from friends to coworkers to neighbors, noticing the intonation and rhythm of each. Finally, I thought about gratitude. I whispered, I am grateful for today. I am grateful for small conversations. I am grateful for learning English naturally. I am grateful for friends, neighbors, colleagues. I am grateful for calm moments and quiet time. I am grateful for the ability to speak, listen, and practice. I am grateful for tomorrow. Saying gratitude aloud not only calms the mind, but also gives emotional strength. It builds positive feelings associated with English, so practicing becomes joyful and natural. I repeated, I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful, softly until my eyes felt heavy and my mind relaxed. As I drifted into sleep, I whispered softly, good night. Tomorrow will be another chance to speak, listen, practice, and enjoy English naturally, feeling calm, confident, and ready for another day of simple conversations, quiet reflections, and real-life fluency. And with that thought, the day ended peacefully, full of small interactions, clear sentences, natural English, and a growing sense of confidence that comes only from living the language one small conversation at a time. Saturday morning arrived with a soft, golden light streaming through my window, and I whispered to myself, "Weekend at last," feeling relief after a long week of work and small daily conversations. I stretched slowly and said, "Today, I can relax, practice English, and maybe do something fun, because weekends are the perfect time to speak English naturally while doing real activities." I got out of bed, went to the kitchen, and poured a cup of coffee, saying quietly, "Time for morning coffee." That feels good. Sitting at the table with the warm cup in hand, I opened my phone to check messages. Mia had sent a text asking, "Do you want to meet for breakfast?" I smiled and whispered, "Perfect opportunity to practice conversation," before replying, "Sure." "What time?" She responded quickly, 9 o'clock. "See you at the cafe." I said, "Great, see you there," and placed my phone down, feeling excited for a day filled with real, natural English interactions. After a quick shower and dressing casually, I left my apartment and walked to the cafe, greeting neighbors along the way. "Good morning," I said to Mr. Lee, who was watering his plants, and he replied, "Morning. Lovely day, isn't it?" I smiled and said, "Yes, very nice," noticing how simple greetings create friendly connections. Passing the bakery, I saw the staff arranging pastries. "Hello," I said, and one of them replied, "Hi. Do you want a croissant?" I laughed softly and said, "Not today, thank you," before continuing. Even these small interactions, "Hello, good morning, how are you? Thank you," are part of everyday English that makes the language feel alive and natural. By the time I arrived at the cafe, the familiar aroma of coffee and baked goods filled the air, and Mia was already seated at a table by the window. "Hey, good morning," I said, smiling. She stood up to greet me, and I said, "Good morning. How are you today?" She replied warmly, "Pretty good. Excited for the weekend," and I said, "Me too. It feels great to relax." We sat down and ordered breakfast, practicing natural conversation while scanning the menu. "I'll have the omelette," I said, "please." Mia said, "I'll take pancakes," and the waiter smiled, confirming, "Great choices." "Anything to drink?" "Just coffee," I said, and Mia added, "Tea, please." "Perfect," the waiter said before leaving. Ordering food in natural English, politely and clearly, is an excellent way to practice for real-life fluency. While waiting for our food, we began talking casually about our week. "How was work?" Mia asked. I said, "Busy, but productive. Lots of small conversations, emails, and a few meetings." She nodded. "Sounds like your English practice keeps growing every day." I smiled and said, "Yes, small conversations make a huge difference. I talk to coworkers, neighbors, friends, even strangers. And I speak to myself sometimes too." She laughed softly. "That's smart. I should try that too." Talking about learning experiences while using English naturally is a helpful exercise. We continued discussing plans for the weekend, movies we wanted to see, and errands we needed to run, using simple English phrases like, "Do you want to? Let's go there. What do you think? That sounds good. I'm not sure yet. Maybe later. I hope it's okay." These are phrases used constantly in real life, perfect for building fluent English without studying grammar rules. When our breakfast arrived, the waiter said, "Here you go. Enjoy your meal," and we responded, "Thank you," practicing polite responses naturally. As we ate, we continued casual conversations about hobbies, weekend plans, and small daily events. Talking while eating helps practice English in natural rhythms, learning polite phrases like, Pass me the salt. Can I have more coffee? This tastes good, I like it, and do you want some? Small sentences repeated throughout the day help learners internalize real English patterns. After breakfast, we walked to a nearby park, noticing the gentle breeze and warm sunlight. It's beautiful today, I said softly, and Mia replied, yes, perfect for a walk. As we walked slowly along the paths, we talked about what we observed: birds singing, children playing, joggers passing by, and flowers blooming. I practiced natural phrases like, look at that tree, the flowers are nice, do you hear that bird? It smells so fresh, and I love this weather, speaking clearly and slowly. Mia commented, I never noticed this path before. It's peaceful, and I said, I know. It's a good spot to relax and practice English, reinforcing the connection between real-life observation and language practice. Walking in the park is an excellent chance to speak naturally, ask questions, and describe surroundings using sentences anyone can say: I see, I hear, I like, this is, do you, can you. Repeating such sentences improves fluency in everyday conversation. We sat on a bench near the pond, watching ducks swim and children feed them. I whispered quietly, it's so calm here, while Mia said, yes, the water looks nice. We continued talking about simple daily things. Did you sleep well? What did you eat for lunch yesterday? Do you have plans for the evening? I'm thinking of reading a book. Maybe I'll cook something later. Do you like walking in parks? Each question and answer flows naturally in conversation, using simple words. We practiced short exchanges, polite responses, and listening carefully. For example, when Mia said, I saw a cute puppy on the street, I replied, really? What did it look like? And she described it, and I said, sounds adorable. Practicing listening and responding is one of the most effective ways to develop real conversational fluency. After the park, we visited a small bookstore nearby. As soon as we entered, I greeted the cashier, good morning. How are you? And she replied, hello. Doing well, thanks. How about you? I said, pretty good. Thank you. Browsing the shelves, I practiced phrases quietly. I'm looking for a book about history. Do you have this author? Can you help me find? This looks interesting. Mia asked, what are you looking for? And I said, something easy to read and practice English. The cashier overheard and smiled, saying, we have a few good ones here, and pointed to a shelf. I walked over and whispered, perfect. This will help me. Shopping in English provides endless opportunities to use polite requests, questions, and descriptions naturally. I picked a book and said quietly, this one looks good. Let me check inside. Mia chose a small novel and whispered, I'll read this later. After selecting our books, we went to the cashier. Just these two, please, I said, placing the books on the counter. The cashier asked, cash or card, and I replied, card, please. Mia paid with cash, and we said, thank you, leaving the store with our books. Every interaction, even brief, contributes to natural fluency in English. By late afternoon, we walked back toward the main street and decided to stop for ice cream. The shop had a colorful display, and I said, I'll take vanilla, please, while Mia said, chocolate for me. The cashier asked, cone or cup, and we replied, cone, please. She handed the ice cream and said, enjoy, and we smiled, thank you. We sat outside, tasting the ice cream and talking about favorite flavors, simple recipes, and funny childhood stories. Simple exchanges like, I like this, do you like that? It tastes sweet, mine is better, remember when, help learners speak naturally in English while connecting to daily life. We laughed, repeated words, and asked each other questions, practicing spontaneous conversation. As the sun started to lower, I said softly, time to head back home, and Mia nodded. On the walk back, we reflected on the day's activities and small lessons. I used English naturally today. I greeted many people. I asked and answered questions. I described what I saw. I practiced listening carefully. I used short sentences. I felt confident. I noticed small phrases. I repeated sentences quietly, and I will continue tomorrow. Reviewing in English while walking helps internalize experiences and vocabulary. When we reached my apartment, we said goodbye. See you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good evening. You too. Polite farewells are an important part of daily conversational fluency. Once inside my apartment, I unpacked my groceries for the week, saying quietly, "Let me put this here. Onions, tomatoes, milk, eggs, pasta," labeling items naturally. I prepared a simple snack while speaking to myself. Slice the bread, spread the butter, add cheese. Perfect. Then I sat down, opened my notebook, and wrote a few sentences reflecting on the weekend. I practiced English naturally. I spoke to friends, strangers, and myself. I listened carefully. I used polite phrases. I felt confident. I will continue practicing every day. Writing while speaking aloud is an excellent technique for reinforcing fluency, combining reading, writing, speaking, and thinking in English. After reading the sentences aloud slowly, I whispered, "Small steps every day lead to fluency." Practice naturally. Speak confidently. Listen carefully. As evening settled, I called my parents to share a few moments of conversation. "Hi, how are you?" I said. They replied warmly, "We are fine." "How was your weekend so far?" I told them about the breakfast, the park, and the bookstore. They asked questions, and I replied using simple sentences. I walked in the park. I bought a book to practice English. I had ice cream with Mia. It was relaxing and fun. Conversations with family are perfect for practicing polite, clear, natural English. After talking for 20 minutes, I said softly, "I'll call again tomorrow," and we said goodnight, "Good night. Sleep well." You too. These familiar exchanges reinforce daily English fluency. Finally, as I prepared for bed, I reflected quietly, whispering sentences slowly and clearly. Today I used English naturally. I spoke with friends, strangers, and family. I practiced listening and speaking. I described what I saw and did. I asked and answered questions. I repeated sentences aloud. I feel more confident. Tomorrow, I will continue practicing. Each small conversation matters. Repeating these sentences slowly helps English learners internalize patterns and natural speech rhythm. Lying down, I whispered softly, "Good night. Today was a good practice." Tomorrow will be another chance to speak, listen, and enjoy English naturally. Feeling calm, grateful, and ready, I closed my eyes, knowing that every small interaction during the weekend strengthened my fluency, one friendly, simple conversation at a time. Sunday morning arrived with a gentle breeze and soft sunlight shining through my window, and I whispered quietly, "A perfect day for meeting friends," feeling excitement because social gatherings are one of the best ways to practice natural English. After stretching and drinking a glass of water, I prepared a small breakfast while speaking out loud. Toast, eggs, coffee. That should be enough. These simple sentences make everyday actions opportunities for English practice. Once ready, I checked my phone and saw messages from friends confirming our meeting time. I whispered, "Great, everyone is ready," and typed a quick reply, "See you at noon." Walking to the meeting place, I greeted neighbors on the way, saying, "Good morning. How are you?" And they replied with smiles, "Morning. Doing well, thanks." Using natural greetings repeatedly helps build conversational fluency, as the same phrases are used in different situations throughout the day. Each interaction, no matter how brief, strengthens listening and speaking skills. When I arrived at the cafe where we planned to meet, my friends were already there. "Hey, good morning," I said, smiling warmly. They responded, "Good morning. How are you? I said, I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to see everyone. We ordered coffee and small pastries, practicing natural English while reading menus, making polite requests, and expressing preferences. I'll have a cappuccino. Do you have almond milk? Can I get one more croissant? That looks delicious, thank you. These daily interactions are simple but essential for practicing real English in social settings. As we sat down, we began talking casually, using phrases like, "How was your week? Did you do anything fun? Have you seen any movies recently? I went for a walk in the park yesterday. That sounds nice. I like that too. Tell me more, really? That's interesting." Each exchange flows naturally, allowing me to speak, listen, and respond confidently without focusing on grammar rules. As our conversation continued, I noticed how listening carefully helps me understand context and respond appropriately. One friend said, "I tried a new recipe yesterday," and I replied, "Oh, really? What did you make?" She smiled and explained, and I said, "That sounds delicious. I should try it too," practicing polite compliments and encouragement. Another friend mentioned a recent hike. The trail was challenging but beautiful, and I replied, "I love hiking." "How long did it take?" These simple questions and responses make conversations flow naturally. Practicing natural follow-up questions like, "Really? What happened next? How was it? Did you enjoy it?" helps learners engage in meaningful dialogue with ease. We laughed and shared small stories from our week, repeating sentences quietly in my mind. "I went to the bookstore. I bought a new book to practice English. I walked in the park. I had ice cream with Mia. It was relaxing and fun." Repeating sentences strengthens memory and reinforces natural speech patterns. After a while, one friend suggested playing a small board game at the cafe. "Do you want to try this?" she asked. I smiled and replied, "Sure. Sounds fun." As we played, we practiced casual English, explaining moves and asking questions. "Your turn. Can I move here?" "Yes, you can. I think this will work. Let's see what happens." That was close. Even while playing, small sentences and natural expressions provide excellent speaking practice. Laughing and reacting naturally in English helps learners feel more comfortable and confident in social settings. I whispered quietly to myself, "I am speaking English naturally. I am listening carefully. I am having fun. I feel confident." Later, we walked outside to enjoy the warm afternoon, practicing descriptive sentences and questions about our surroundings. "The flowers are blooming nicely," I said, and a friend replied, "Yes, the colors are beautiful." Another added, "I like how peaceful it is here," and I said, "Me too. The sun feels warm." Describing the environment aloud, asking questions, and responding politely creates realistic conversational practice. We discussed local events, small personal stories, and future plans using natural phrases. "I am planning to visit the museum. That sounds fun. Do you want to join? Maybe next time. I'll think about it. Let me know." These expressions occur constantly in daily life, and practicing them in context improves fluency and comprehension. As we continued our walk, I noticed small moments perfect for English practice. A person walking a dog passed by, and I said quietly, "What a cute dog." One friend added, "Yes, I love dogs," and I said, "Me too. What breed is it?" Small comments like these are simple but valuable for speaking naturally. We stopped by a small bookstore window and discussed the books on display. "That looks interesting. I like the cover. Do you think it's good?" "I'm not sure. Maybe we should check reviews," using short sentences and polite questions. Talking about objects, observations, or interests helps learners practice descriptive and interactive language naturally. I whispered to myself, every small conversation matters. Every question and response counts. By late afternoon, we returned to the cafe for another cup of coffee before saying goodbye. It was so nice to meet today, I said. They replied, yes. We should do this again soon. I said, absolutely. Next weekend, and they agreed, perfect. Using future expressions and making plans in simple English is important for social fluency. Saying polite farewells like, see you soon. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye reinforces vocabulary and phrasing that are used repeatedly in real life. After leaving the cafe, I walked home, reflecting quietly on all the conversations of the day. I spoke with friends. I asked questions. I gave answers. I described objects and feelings. I made polite requests. I complimented. I listened carefully. I practiced natural English. I felt confident. I had fun. Reflection is a key part of improving fluency because it allows learners to consolidate the language used in real situations. Back at my apartment, I unpacked groceries and prepared a simple snack while speaking quietly to myself. Slice the bread, spread the butter, add cheese. Perfect. I reviewed vocabulary from the day aloud. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, thank you, you're welcome, please, excuse me, I like this, I think that, I hope so, I feel happy, I feel confident, I am ready, let's do this, what do you think? Repeating useful phrases aloud strengthens memory and helps them flow naturally in future conversations. I wrote a few sentences in my notebook reflecting on the weekend. I used English naturally in all social situations. I listened carefully. I asked questions and gave answers. I described what I saw and felt. I practiced polite phrases. I had fun. I feel more confident. I will continue practicing every day. Writing while speaking aloud combines multiple skills: reading, writing, thinking, and speaking, which accelerates fluency development. As evening settled, I called my parents for a short chat. Hi, how was your weekend? I asked. They replied warmly, it was good. How about you? I told them about breakfast, the park, and the cafe gathering, using simple sentences and clear pronunciation. I had breakfast with friends. We went to the park. We walked and talked. We played a small game. We discussed books and plans. They responded with comments and questions, and I answered naturally. Yes, it was fun. I felt relaxed. I used English a lot. I listened carefully. I will continue practicing. Talking to family in English, even briefly, reinforces polite conversational patterns, natural sentence structure, and listening skills. After 20 minutes, we said goodbye. See you tomorrow. Take care. Good night, and I smiled, feeling grateful for the chance to use English naturally throughout the day. Before bed, I reflected quietly and whispered sentences slowly. Today I spoke naturally with friends, strangers, and family. I asked questions, answered, complimented, and described things. I practiced listening carefully. I made small polite requests. I felt confident. I enjoyed all conversations. I will continue tomorrow. Every small conversation matters. Speaking English every day builds fluency. I am improving. I am confident. I will continue practicing. Repeating sentences like this, calmly and clearly, strengthens fluency and natural rhythm. As I closed my eyes, I whispered softly, "Good night." Today was a perfect day for practicing English naturally. Tomorrow will be another chance to speak, listen, and enjoy conversations. I feel confident and ready. Feeling calm, relaxed, and satisfied, I drifted into sleep, knowing that small social interactions, repeated observations, and friendly conversations are the foundation of fluent, natural English. As the sun slowly sank behind the buildings, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink, I returned to my apartment feeling calm and a little tired, and I whispered quietly, "Evening is here. Time to relax and review the day." I kicked off my shoes and walked slowly into the kitchen, pouring a small cup of tea while speaking aloud. Tea is warm. Perfect for the evening. These small sentences, repeated naturally, help learners practice English in simple daily contexts. Sitting at the table with the cup in hand, I thought about the day's activities, meeting friends, walking in the park, visiting the bookstore, playing a game, and talking with family, and I whispered slowly. Today I spoke naturally. I listened carefully. I asked questions. I answered politely. I described things I saw. I complimented. I made small requests. I feel confident. Reflecting out loud in English reinforces both fluency and confidence because it connects language to real-life experiences and emotions. I opened my notebook and began reviewing phrases and vocabulary I had used throughout the day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, thank you, you're welcome, please, excuse me, I like this, I think that, I hope so, I feel happy, I feel confident. I am ready, let's do this, what do you think? I read each phrase slowly, aloud, noticing pronunciation, rhythm, and natural tone. Then I began writing a few sentences about the day while speaking each one softly as I wrote. I walked in the park. I saw flowers and birds. I spoke to friends. I ordered coffee. I played a small game. I talked about books. I had ice cream. I called my parents. I felt relaxed. I practiced English naturally. I am improving every day. Writing while speaking aloud combines multiple skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, making practice more effective and real. After writing, I reflected on challenges I faced during the day, speaking them aloud in calm, simple English. Sometimes I hesitated. Sometimes I forgot a word. Sometimes I worried about speaking clearly. That's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. I can try again. Each conversation is practice. Each small sentence counts. I am improving. Acknowledging challenges is important because learners build confidence by recognizing mistakes as opportunities, not failures. I repeated encouragement slowly. I am improving. I am learning. I am confident. I will continue practicing, letting the words settle naturally in my mind. Then I practiced storytelling aloud, summarizing the day's experiences in simple English. This morning I had breakfast. I drank coffee and checked messages. I met friends at the cafe. We talked about our week, future plans, and small daily stories. We walked in the park and described things we saw: birds, flowers, children playing. We visited a bookstore and discussed books. We played a small game, laughing and speaking naturally. I practiced asking and answering questions. I called my parents and shared my day. I reflected quietly at home. I wrote in my notebook. I spoke softly to myself. I feel confident. I am ready for tomorrow. Speaking a long story in simple English trains learners to connect sentences, express ideas clearly, and maintain natural rhythm in speech. After storytelling, I practiced small dialogues aloud, imagining different people and situations. I said softly, "Good morning. How are you?" "I'm fine, thank you." "And you?" "I like this cafe. What do you think?" "It's nice. The coffee is good. Can I help you?" "Yes, please. Thank you. I enjoyed the walk." "Did you like it?" "Yes, very much. It was peaceful." "What are your plans for tomorrow?" "I will practice English and go shopping." These short dialogues are useful for learners because they cover everyday situations and encourage natural responses. Repeating them aloud strengthens pronunciation, listening, and speaking confidence. Next, I focused on emotions and feelings. Practicing sentences aloud, I felt happy today. I felt relaxed walking in the park. I felt confident talking to friends. I felt proud completing small tasks. I felt grateful for quiet moments. I feel ready for tomorrow. I am calm. I am confident. I am improving. Expressing feelings in simple sentences helps learners connect language with emotions, making English sound natural and expressive rather than mechanical. Then I imagined tomorrow and spoke aloud. Tomorrow I will wake up, drink coffee, plan my day, practice English, meet friends, go for a walk, read a book, cook dinner, talk to my parents, and reflect quietly. I will speak clearly. I will listen carefully. I will ask questions. I will answer politely. I will notice small phrases. I will repeat sentences. I will stay calm. I will enjoy English naturally. Speaking about future plans aloud is an effective technique for practicing grammar structures, future tense, and sentence flow, while reinforcing positive habits in English. After that, I practiced repeating key phrases from the day, slowly and clearly. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you. You're welcome. Please. Excuse me. I like this. I think that. I hope so. I feel happy. I feel confident. I am ready. Let's do this. What do you think? Repeating frequently used phrases aloud consolidates memory and helps them flow naturally in conversation. Finally, I reflected on gratitude, whispering softly, I am grateful for today. I am grateful for conversations with friends and family. I am grateful for small interactions with strangers. I am grateful for learning English naturally. I am grateful for calm moments and quiet reflections. I am grateful for opportunities to speak, listen, and practice. Saying gratitude aloud strengthens emotional connection to English learning, making practice enjoyable and meaningful. I repeated, I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful until I felt calm and ready for sleep. As I turned off the lights and lay in bed, I whispered slowly, good night. Today was full of small conversations, real practice, and natural English. Tomorrow will be another chance to speak, listen, and enjoy learning. I feel confident and ready. With that thought, I closed my eyes, feeling relaxed, satisfied, and prepared to continue the journey of fluent English, one small, friendly conversation at a time. Monday morning approached quietly, with soft sunlight filling the room, and I whispered to myself, a new week is here. Time to plan and prepare. I stretched slowly and said aloud, let me get ready for today, before heading to the kitchen for a warm cup of tea. As I poured the tea, I described each step to myself. Boil water, add tea leaves, steep, pour into the cup. Perfect. Speaking aloud during simple daily tasks helps practice fluency because it trains the brain to connect actions with English words naturally. Sitting at the table, I opened my planner and reviewed the week ahead. Monday, meeting at 10. Call Mia. Grocery shopping. Evening reflection. Tuesday, work tasks. Wednesday, exercise. Thursday, dinner with friends. Friday, finish projects. Saturday, relax. Sunday, social gathering. I spoke each task slowly, aloud, practicing numbers, days, and daily expressions. Reviewing plans verbally allows learners to think in English and reinforce vocabulary naturally, preparing the mind for the upcoming week. After reviewing the schedule, I reflected on last week's conversations and small achievements. I whispered softly. I practiced English naturally with friends, neighbors, coworkers, and family. I described what I saw. I asked questions. I answered politely. I listened carefully. I repeated sentences aloud. I feel more confident. I learned new phrases. Reflecting in English consolidates memory and strengthens natural fluency. I also thought about challenges. Sometimes I hesitated. Sometimes I forgot words. That's okay. Mistakes are part of learning. I will try again. Each conversation counts. Speaking encouragements aloud improves confidence and reduces fear of mistakes, which is important for real-life fluency. Next, I practiced a few polite phone conversations aloud, imagining different scenarios. Hello, this is Joshim. I'm calling to confirm our meeting tomorrow. Yes, that works. Thank you. Could we reschedule if needed? Sure. No problem. I appreciate your help. Have a good day. You too. These short dialogues cover real-life situations like scheduling, asking for help, and confirming plans. Practicing them aloud reinforces natural pronunciation, polite intonation, and smooth conversation flow. I repeated similar sentences imagining other situations, ordering food, asking for directions, talking to coworkers, checking emails, or greeting neighbors. Each imagined scenario creates real-life practice that can be used naturally throughout the week. After planning and practicing, I prepared breakfast while speaking aloud. Toast, eggs, coffee. That should be enough. Let me cook the eggs carefully. Don't burn them. Perfect. Time to serve. Narrating daily actions trains learners to describe routines naturally. After eating, I cleaned the dishes and whispered, rinse carefully. Put the dishes away. Dry slowly. Perfect. These simple sentences make every household activity an opportunity for English practice, linking action with speech, which is key for beginners and advanced learners alike. Later, I made a quick call to Mia to finalize plans for the week. Hi, how are you? I asked. She replied warmly, I'm good. How about you? I said, I'm fine, thank you. I want to confirm our breakfast plan tomorrow. She said yes. 9 o'clock at the cafe. I replied, perfect. See you then. This short exchange involved greetings, confirming plans, and polite responses. Speaking these sentences aloud slowly helps learners internalize everyday English patterns and prepare for spontaneous conversations in real life. After the call, I whispered softly. I used polite expressions. I listened carefully. I answered clearly. I feel confident. As the day progressed, I went outside for a short walk. The air is fresh. The sun is warm. Birds are singing. People are walking dogs. Children are playing. The flowers are blooming. The street is peaceful. I described everything aloud, practicing natural observation sentences. Observing and narrating surroundings aloud is a simple and effective method to improve listening and speaking skills simultaneously. Passing neighbors, I said, "Good morning. How are you?" And they replied, "Good morning. Doing well, thanks." I smiled and said, "Great." Small interactions like these are repeated multiple times every day and help learners use English naturally without thinking too much about grammar rules. Returning home, I spent a few minutes reviewing vocabulary. I whispered aloud, "Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, thank you, you're welcome, please, excuse me, I like this, I think that, I hope so, I feel happy, I feel confident, I am ready, let's do this. What do you think?" I pronounced each phrase slowly, noticing rhythm and intonation. Repetition reinforces memory and builds confidence in natural use. I also practiced forming questions. Can I help you? Do you want to join? What are your plans? Did you enjoy it? Can I try? Is that okay? Simple question phrases are used constantly in real life, and practicing them aloud prepares learners to respond spontaneously and politely in daily conversations. In the evening, I reflected quietly while sipping tea. Today, I planned my week. I reviewed tasks. I reflected on last week. I spoke aloud while preparing breakfast. I practiced polite phone conversations. I walked outside and described the surroundings. I greeted neighbors. I reviewed vocabulary. I feel ready for tomorrow. I am confident in speaking English. I am improving every day. Speaking reflections aloud consolidates learning, builds mental fluency, and helps internalize sentence structures naturally. Finally, I prepared for bed while narrating my actions aloud. Turn off the lights. Brush my teeth carefully. Put on pajamas. Fold the blanket. Place the notebook on the table. Check the planner one last time. Everything is ready. Time to sleep. Describing simple actions aloud keeps English active in the mind, reinforcing natural speech patterns. As I lay down, I whispered slowly, "Good night. Tomorrow will be another day to speak, listen, and practice English naturally. I feel confident. I feel calm. I am ready." With this thought, I closed my eyes, relaxed, and drifted into sleep, ready to face the new week with fluent, simple, and natural English in every interaction. As the week came to an end, I sat by the window, watching the soft evening light fade into darkness, and whispered quietly, "It has been a full week of practice. I have spoken, listened, and learned." I reflected on each day in detail, speaking slowly and clearly. On Monday, I planned the week and reviewed tasks. I practiced polite phone conversations. I walked outside and described what I saw. I greeted neighbors. I practiced vocabulary aloud. On Tuesday, I focused on small conversations at work, asking questions and giving answers. On Wednesday, I practiced storytelling about daily life, repeating sentences slowly. On Thursday, I listened carefully in meetings, practiced short dialogues, and described objects around me. On Friday, I spoke naturally with friends, complimented, and asked polite questions. On Saturday, I walked in the park, visited a bookstore, and practiced spontaneous English with Mia. On Sunday, I enjoyed social gatherings, shared stories, and reflected quietly at home. Each day had moments of speaking, listening, observing, and reviewing. Speaking reflections allows learners to consolidate experiences, notice progress, and reinforce natural speech patterns. I then focused on challenges I faced during the week, saying aloud in calm, simple English. Sometimes I hesitated. Sometimes I forgot words. Sometimes I was nervous. That is okay. Mistakes are normal. Each conversation is practice. Every word counts. Every sentence counts. I am improving. I will continue tomorrow. Recognizing challenges and verbalizing encouragements strengthens confidence and reduces fear of speaking, which is essential for fluent English. I repeated slowly, "I am confident. I am learning. I am improving. I will keep practicing." Repetition of positive statements helps learners internalize a growth mindset and naturally express themselves in English. Next, I reviewed key phrases and sentences used throughout the week. Speaking them aloud slowly, I said, "Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you. You're welcome. Please. Excuse me. I like this. I think that. I hope so. I feel happy. I feel confident. I am ready. Let's do this. What do you think? Can I help you? Do you want to join? What are your plans? Did you enjoy it? Can I try? Is that okay? Repeating these phrases aloud strengthens memory, improves pronunciation, and reinforces natural, spontaneous use in daily conversations. Using these phrases regularly in real life is essential for fluency at any advanced level. I then practiced long connected sentences aloud, forming simple storytelling patterns. Today I woke up, had breakfast, and drank coffee. I spoke with friends and coworkers. I walked in the park and described what I saw. I visited a bookstore and asked questions politely. I played a small game and spoke naturally. I called my parents and shared my day. I reflected quietly and reviewed vocabulary aloud. I felt calm, confident, and ready for tomorrow. Each conversation, every sentence, every word matters. I am improving. Practicing connected sentences aloud helps learners develop fluency, rhythm, and confidence in expressing thoughts clearly. Long sentences in simple English create storytelling flow, a key skill for natural conversation. After storytelling, I imagine different daily scenarios to practice speaking spontaneously. I whispered softly, "I am at the cafe." I greet the barista, "Good morning. How are you?" I order coffee politely, "I'll have a cappuccino, please." I sit and talk to a friend, "How was your week?" I listen carefully, "That sounds fun." I replied, "Really? What happened next?" I smiled and added, "That's great." I thanked the barista, "Thank you." I left the cafe and walked home. I greeted neighbors, "Good evening. How are you?" I described the sky, "The sunset looks beautiful." I waved goodbye. I felt calm and happy. Practicing real-life scenarios allows learners to anticipate conversations and respond naturally without hesitation. This method reinforces listening, speaking, and observational skills simultaneously. Next, I focused on describing emotions and feelings aloud. I felt happy talking to friends. I felt calm walking outside. I felt confident completing small tasks. I felt proud sharing my thoughts. I felt grateful for learning English naturally. I feel ready for tomorrow. I feel motivated. I feel confident. I am improving every day. Expressing emotions in simple sentences connects language with real-life experiences, making speech more natural, authentic, and engaging. Using phrases like "I feel" regularly strengthens emotional expression and fluency. I then practiced making future plans aloud. Tomorrow I will wake up, drink coffee, and review tasks. I will speak with coworkers, ask questions, and answer politely. I will walk outside and describe surroundings. I will meet a friend and have a conversation. I will practice storytelling aloud. I will reflect quietly and review vocabulary. I will speak slowly and clearly. I will stay calm and confident. I will enjoy speaking English naturally. Speaking about the future helps learners use grammar structures, plan ideas, and maintain fluency in storytelling or daily conversation. Repeating plans aloud also prepares the mind to think in English naturally, rather than translating from another language. After practicing future plans, I spent a few minutes reflecting on gratitude aloud. I am grateful for today. I am grateful for friends, family, and neighbors. I am grateful for opportunities to speak, listen, and practice. I am grateful for books, coffee, walks, and small moments. I am grateful for calm and quiet reflections. I am grateful for learning naturally and improving every day. Saying gratitude aloud strengthens emotional connection to language learning and creates a positive habit that reinforces practice motivation. I repeated softly, "I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful," until my mind felt calm and my body relaxed. Finally, I prepared for bed while narrating my actions aloud. Turn off the lights. Brush my teeth carefully. Put on pajamas. Fold the blanket. Place the notebook on the table. Everything is ready. Time to sleep. Speaking simple actions aloud keeps English active in the mind, linking daily routines with language practice naturally. Lying down, I whispered slowly, "Good night." Today was full of practice, learning, and natural conversations. Tomorrow will be another day to speak, listen, and enjoy English naturally. I feel confident. I feel calm. I am ready. With that thought, I closed my eyes, feeling relaxed, motivated, and prepared to continue the journey of fluent English, one small conversation, one simple sentence, and one friendly interaction at a time. This completes the full cycle of reflection, practice, motivation, and preparation for continuous improvement in speaking, listening, and using English naturally every day. Thank you so much for joining today's lesson here at Fluent English Journey. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below telling me what you want to learn next. Your support helps the channel grow and helps me create more lessons for you. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next class.